I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. With us, my regular guest. He is a former CIA officer. He's an expert in counterintelligence. He protected one of the CIA directors at one time, actually stayed at his house. Super high security clearance. He wrote this book about 4 or 5 years ago, From the Company of Shadows, all about the deep state. It could have been written last week. It's on his website, For the Love of Freedom. Whoops, do I have it right here? Yes, we have. For the Love of Freedom.net is his website, and the man is Kevin Shipp. Kevin Shipp, thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Greg, it's always a pleasure to be with you.
Well, let's get right to it. Lots to talk about. And you, in the pre-interview, and when I talked to you yesterday, you were talking to me about the importance of not only Eric Holder, the former AG of Barack Obama, but also him coming out in the, and I'll just give you the headline, the Washington Post. Eric Holder, Barr is unfit to be Attorney General. He smacked at his bias and also went after his top prosecutor, Durham, and warned him about his reputation. What's going on with what's the deep backstory on Holder, Eric Holder, coming out right after this FISA report drop from Horowitz and just trashing AG Barr?
Well, Greg, this is very significant. We all remember that Eric Holder was Barack Obama's enforcer. He was his right-hand man. And the fact that Holder comes out this quickly after the Horowitz report comes out, and especially after Barr's statements, you could trace Holder all the way back to his former boss, Barack Obama. So Eric Holder comes out and makes this kind of a veiled threat against Durham's reputation. This shows me without a doubt that they are running scared. They are really concerned that there are going to be criminal indictments. That is why Holder came out. Now we have to understand it was Eric Holder that Barack Obama used to target the heads of corporations that spoke out publicly against Barack Obama. And we know he was held in contempt of court. In contempt of Congress. He signed off on spying on AP reporters, ran guns across into drug cartels, blacked out all the information, refused to provide it to Congress, spied on over 100 journalists, and on we go. The man was corrupt when he was in office, and I think the primary point here, Greg, is he was and is an Obama fixer. So for, of all people, Eric Holder to come out and make this sort of attack shows you that they are deathly concerned about Barr's investigation continuing.
Do you think that this could have been done without a phone call between his a good buddy Barack Obama, former President Obama, and AG Holder? Do you think
I think that, in my view, because they are so close, and Holder's relationship with Obama as his fixer, I think that's just in my view. That's exactly what happened.
Do you think he was actually told to do this?
Yes, I do. I do.
Wow.
I think he was advised to come out and make this statement publicly. It's an op, in my opinion, and I personally, just my view, because they're so close, I think he was in contact with Barack Obama.
So, are you saying that this is like Obama is saying this?
That's what I'm saying. Yes. And that's based on the historical track record of Holder being Obama's right-hand man,
his wingman,
fixer, and his wingman and his point man all through the Obama administration when Holder was Attorney General. Why wouldn't he be doing the same thing now? Well, he is. It's clear because he came out as an attack dog against Barr and Durham, and I think that was inspired by Barack Obama himself. They're close. They still talk to each other. Obama's administration and some of the members of it are in trouble. So, yeah, I think they did have a conversation, Obama and Holder was sent out once again as the attack dog, the Obama defender, the Obama enforcer, to do this op-ed. I think that's exactly, knowing how this propaganda machine works, I think that's exactly what happened.
I mean, we're only speculating here, but here's some of the things we're not speculating. The IG report had one felony after another in it. Whether or not you think it's politically biased or not, or whether you got that wrong, or how they started the investigation, there's just one damnable offense after another in it.
Yeah.
And we also had, and this is all as Clapper said twice on CNN, basically that Obama told us to start the intelligence assessment. This is James Clapper, the DNI. He said, "Oh, if it wasn't for Obama, He basically said on more than one occasion, Obama told us to
He
do
did.
it. Does Obama think he's going to jail too, or suffer some sort of penalty?
Well, I think Obama is too much of a psychological narcissist to think that, but I think he is becoming concerned that the investigation is getting closer to him than he would like. And by the way, Clapper just came out on CNN and said this, quote, even the earlier version of the redacted FISA authorization, to me, had enough information to indicate that the dossier was certainly not used as the primary source. That is a lie. The dossier was used as the primary source. So Clapper's out there lying to the media again. So these issues, and I think potential coming indictments, involve senior members of the staff of Barack Obama, which gets close to Obama. You and I know that, and I used to be involved in this, that the CIA President's Daily Brief, the PDB, is delivered to the president every day, and that would have included this entire operation against Carter Page, the FISA apps, and everything else. Obama would have known it because it would have been on his desk.
Oh boy! So not only did he know about it at the top,
Yes,
the order came from the top, from him.
yes.
I mean that's what Clapper has said on the air publicly. It came from Obama.
That's correct. And remember Strzok and Page's text where they said that the White House was directing their effort. And that the White House means the President Barack Obama at the time. There's absolutely no question about the fact that this leads directly to Barack Obama. Will justice be served there? Thank God we've got Attorney General Barr and John Durham. All of the evidence leads to Barack Obama. Are people willing to go that high? That remains to be seen.
Well, so for the idea that I don't know how they can send Brennan to jail. I don't know how they can, because he orchestrated this phony coup.
He did.
He orchestrated it in a global fashion.
He did. Yes, he did. He was the central focus of the entire Russia collusion hoax, and he took the dossier and put it in the intelligence assessment report as if it was intelligence, and then he leaked it to the news media intentionally, and what he was doing was creating a story which the willing media took and made it look real. Brennan is at the center of this, not to mention the fact that he hacked into the Senate computers to spy on the torture report and the other egregious things he's done. I think Brennan is at the top of the list of indictments.
Do you think there's any way that Obama could say, well, I didn't know any of this. Brennan didn't tell me that this dossier was phony and bogus. Do you think there's any way he could say that?
He'll try. You remember with the IRS.
Do you think they would all get together and sit there and lie to the president, right to his face, about an intelligence operation that involves the incoming president of the other party?
No. He was fully aware. Obama was fully witting of this, and they're required to brief him on the operation, which indeed they did. There's absolutely no question about that. Obama knew, and Obama directed it. And the question is, does the now Attorney General have the power to investigate a former president of the United States who's connected to all of this and the Russia collusion soft coup? The question is, do they have the power to do that? They do, but are they willing to take it to that level? That's the question.
Do you think if push comes to shove, and let's say Brennan is the the number one target of some sort of indictment, do you think he's just going to keep quiet about it and spend the rest of his life in jail? I mean, this is a rest of your life at 60 years old.
Yeah.
If he gets a 20-year term, he's done.
Well,
I mean, he's around 60, right?
That's correct.
Is he going to spend the rest of his life in jail to cover Barack Obama while he's out partying and on his which is $13 million Cape Cod house?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely not. I mean, just looking at Brennan's past performance, he'll flip where and when it's necessary. No, they get Brennan in there and they sit him down and give him a nice come to Jesus talk about what he's facing in terms of an indictment. He'll flip. There's no question in my mind about that.
Do you think other people are going to flip? Are these hardened criminals like the Teflon Don, or are these people going to just turn on each other and flip on everybody?
Well, they're going to flip, and the reason is this: these are not young people. They can't be able to say, "Look, you just take the heat on this. You'll get out of jail. Maybe you'll get a 10-year sentence or so, but you'll probably get out in 5, maybe as little. Some espionage cases have gotten out in 2 years." So just bite the bullet. We'll take care of your family. When you get out, you'll never have to worry about money again. But that doesn't work on somebody that's 62 years old or older, because they're looking at the rest of their life behind bars. So there's a different motivation there to roll over and cooperate in any way they can. And I am sure that's what they're going to do.
And this goes for Strzok and Page and McCabe. McCabe said he was going to take other people down if he got indicted.
Right. Right. Oh, they will. Yeah, they will.
Comey, I mean, the list of people, Baker, I mean, the list of people that were involved in this is astounding. Sally Yates, she signed one of the warrants.
Yeah, that's correct. Dana Bonte signed off on it. Yeah, there's multiple people that signed off on these false FISA affidavits. I mean, this is several people that were involved in this.
Just the FISA affidavits. Forget about all the other, framing the president overseas and everything else. I mean, that's a cold bust, isn't it? I mean, Comey signed one, McCabe signed one, Sally Yates signed one, and Rosenstein signed one. Isn't that just a cold bust?
That is hard and fast. It's a cold bust. There's no doubt about it. They signed false affidavits that got a FISA warrant to spy on members of the Trump campaign. And of course, the new propaganda spin in the mainstream media is, well, nobody was spying. Look, when you put a wire on somebody and you send them into the Trump campaign to record what's being said, that's called spying. And these people falsified an affidavit to get these false warrants to spy on the Trump campaign. The affidavits were false. We just mentioned all the people that were involved. This is criminal activity.
I want to get to the press, because I know you talk a lot about the press and the propaganda, and that's what's really turned into. I mean, it's just propaganda. It's awful. And one of the old journalists, and I can't remember his name, but just an idiot. He's the one that got the exclusive with NBC with Barr. Do you think they were spying? Oh, let's see. Everybody's known this for more than a year and a half, I don't know, 2 years. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which created the FISA court, as it's called, where you get warrants to surveil, spy. Do you think there was spying? This is this idiot. They can't be that stupid. They cannot be that stupid to ask William Barr, do you think they were spying on him?
No, they're not. They're not that stupid. They ask these questions and they put these stories out intentionally because they are creating their own story. That's what the mainstream media does, and that's what the propaganda mechanism does, is create their own story. So they didn't ask that question because they're stupid. They asked it because they wanted to frame it around the fact, their narrative that there really wasn't any spying, when that's, as you put so well, that's what FISA applications and warrants are all about. They're all about spying. So for a normal person, that would be a stupid question, but for members of the mainstream media, that was intentional. It was framed to create the story that, or at least a doubt, there was no spying. So that's exactly why they did that.
I don't see how they come back from this. They pitched a story that said Trump was a Russian spy, basically, for a couple of years. That didn't work out. Now they're ignored a story where they were actually spying to form have a coup to remove the president from office. There's tons of evidence that shows that. Now the IG report backs all that up. I've been saying this. Hannity's been saying this. Other people, main alt media outlets have all been saying this was a coup. This was a well orchestrated thing. It involved foreign spy agencies. I've been saying all that stuff. And and now they're like, do you think there was spying? I mean, I like having USA Watchdog. You know why? Because at the mainstream media, I'd have to act surprised right now.
Yeah.
I'd have to, they were spying?
What? What? Yeah.
I mean, how do you think they come back? Can they come back from this?
The mainstream media will never come back to this because finally, through shows like yours and others, the real information is coming out, and what the mainstream media has done, specifically at the top of that list, would be the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, and MSNBC. What they've done, what they did, following basically the procedures of their mentor, Edward Bernays, who was the father of government propaganda under Woodrow Wilson, they're following his playbook exactly. What they did, they created the Russia collusion story as if it was reality, as if it was real. And that's part of the procedure in doing this. Then they invented the evidence, and that was the Steele dossier, which they portrayed as evidence as they created this false narrative. And then the mainstream media all sent this story around to each outlet. They all repeated the same story over and over and over, repeating it, knowing that the more they repeat it, the more people are going to believe it. That's another part of the procedure. And then the FBI, in this case, leaked information to the mainstream media. Then the FBI took that information from the media and turned around and used it as evidence, even in the Mueller report. And it goes on and on. The CIA placed the dossier in the intelligence assessment, and as I mentioned, Brennan leaked it to the mainstream media as part of this whole machine.
They hired him. Wasn't he a consultant? Yes.
Well, now you want to talk about?
Wait. McCabe is hired as a consultant. That idiot. Brennan, Clapper, they're all consultants on the mainstream media channels.
That's right, and they came out as consultants when they had their security clearances, which is outrageous, but that's correct. Clapper is now a senior analyst for CNN, and Brennan is now a senior analyst for MSNBC, and both of them are still coming out and putting out false information about the president and disparaging information about Donald Trump himself. So they're still doing it. They're still part of this mainstream media propaganda machine, and that's exactly what it is. They're a part of it, and now they're mouthpieces for these media outlets.
Eric, I'm just going to go back. We were talking about this because you brought this up in the past. I thought, really, because O'Donnell is well known. That him coming out in the Washington Post with this attack against William Barr, I guess in part to... I don't guess that Barr and Durham would call each other and go, Attorney General Barr, yes, this is John Durham. Do you think we should back off? I don't think that call happened.
No.
Do you? So they're just trashing Barr to make him look. They're dirtying him up, right?
They're dirtying him up. And that's part of the procedure I just talked about, to try to make Barr and Durham look like they're unfit, as Holder did. That was intentional, unfit to be the Attorney General. That's all intentional.
Unfit to prosecute them.
Pardon me?
Unfit to prosecute them.
That's right. Yeah, and that wording was intentional. It was put out there in the public through the good old Washington Post, which has a long history of misinformation, and not only that, connections to the CIA as one of their regular sources for information when there's a constitutional problem right there. But no, the Washington Post is at the top of the list in terms of propaganda papers, has been for decades. And this is just another example of it. They are willing, intentional participants in putting out this false message. And they got Eric Holder. And I think after contact with Barack Obama, they got Eric Holder to do it for them willingly.
So the people that have been writing me saying, oh, nobody's going to burn, nobody's going to go to jail, I'll believe it when I see it. This thing with, what is this op-ed in the Washington Post by the former Attorney General Eric Holder? And incidentally, might I add, why did they get Loretta Lynch to do this?
Yeah, exactly. Why Eric Holder?
Well, what do you think this means? What do you say to the people that say nobody's going to burn? Does everybody believe that nobody's going to burn? Or does somebody think we got a problem?
Well, I can understand why people say that and think that because they're frustrated. But the fact that Eric Holder came out and made this statement is clear indication to me that they're running scared, that they're convinced there are going to be indictments. And secondly, Attorney General Barr's outrage over the Horowitz report and what it didn't do, and the fact, his statements that there was spying, his statements that there were actions by government officials that need to be criminally looked into. Barr's outrage over this shows me that there are going to be indictments, that he is taking this seriously. And as I just mentioned, when Holder comes out and puts out this bombshell in the Washington Post, that's another indication that there's indictments coming. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, John Brennan's going to be at the top of that list.
And what they're trying to do with this op-ed piece, they're not going to stop it. They just want to be able to say, oh, look, see, look at this. We told you that these guys were unfit, and now they're going after a past White House and who knows, maybe a past president. But Barack Obama must be very worried.
Yeah.
Because that's another person. So you haven't heard diddly squat from Loretta Lynch. I mean, nothing.
Nothing. No.
And you haven't heard really not much from Barack Obama.
That's right. And let's boil this down. All we've heard from is from Obama's enforcer, his fixer, Eric Holder. And I think that speaks volumes.
Let's move on to the other political thing. And I know you know a lot about the economy, too. I mean, I know you're not an economist, that kind of thing. But you tuned in with the economy. We just had the Brexit vote, that's what they called it, with Johnson winning the prime ministership. And he put everything on the line and said, we're going to have Brexit, and we're going to change Parliament, and we're going to have a whole election, and it's going to be really concerning Brexit, period, the end. And it was. And Johnson and the Tories, the Republicans basically, won in a landslide. looks like they're leaving the EU.
Right.
Great
Correct.
Britain. They were smart enough to keep their pound sterling, their currency.
That's
What does
right.
this do to the EU? What does this do to what kind of future reverberations this happens in the financial system beyond the partying about them leaving the EU?
Well, this is for those of us that are constitutionalists and freedom lovers. This is an exciting development. This with Brexit, Brexit is a slap in the face of the global order and of globalism and of the global economic order, which you and I know as well as others does exist. So it's basically a huge step of freedom and the voice of the people in terms of the UK. But what's going to happen when Brexit takes place and they leave with all of their revenues? This is going to not just financially, but politically destabilize the EU. And they're looking at some financial crises coming. I think this is going to blow a big hole in their economy. It's going to destabilize their economy, in my view. And again, I'm not a financial expert, but just based on the study that I've done, it's going to destabilize the EU's economy. It's going to have a ripple effect.
And I wanted to kind of bring this up too, because there was a lot of celebration about the jobs number. And, we got a trade deal with China. So they say now that China's reneged, they reneged in the past. Trump's cutting the tariffs, although I think he's cutting the tariffs because he doesn't want to get blamed for a financial meltdown. The repo market is going crazy. I brought this up in my weekly news wrap up, and I talked to you about it briefly, and so this isn't a surprise. But it's the massive, huge leverage ever. Fed will flood market with gargantuan $500 billion in liquidity. It goes to the middle of January to avoid year-end repo crisis. I mean, the Fed thinks there's something wrong with the economy, and this on top of the $60 billion a month. That's this month, and next month that's $120 billion that nobody wants to talk about. What is going on with the economy? Is it really that good? I mean, listen, I like Donald Trump. He's done miracles. We'd be in a depression 3 years ago if it wasn't for him. But
Right.
he did inherit a big debt bomb thrown in his lap
Right.
the day he stuck his hand on the Bible. What is going on with this repo market, the economy, and what's the Fed doing, in your estimation?
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump has done remarkable things with the economy, which he deserves the credit for without question. But this is a monster that not even Donald Trump can fix. We're seeing the Fed pump billions of information billions of dollars of federal money or fake money, let's say, into the economy. 60 billion a month, and now 500 billion that just pumped in here at the end of the year. That is a red flag. That is a sign that the Fed knows something is seriously wrong with the economy or where it's heading. So despite the incredible advancement that Trump has made, he can't fix the monster and the $22 trillion now debt that we have, and of course the other 23 million that's missing, but
21 trillion missing.
21 trillion that's missing. So it's double what people think. It's not just 22 trillion, but Trump has got China to the trade talk table, which is phenomenal, remarkable. What he's done to the jobs and everything else is fantastic, but he cannot stop the monster that he inherited. And the fact that the Fed's pumping 60 billion a year, 60 billion a month into the economy, and now 500 billion with a B they just pumped into the economy shows that something very serious exists in terms of our economic future. And people, as much as we all love the president and support the president, people have got to take this seriously, that we are in kind of a burgeoning, kind of nothing. We're in a burgeoning economic crisis because of the debt we're in. And these are red flags that the Fed is putting up that are hard to ignore.
They're apparently trying to stop defaults.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
What else would they be doing? I mean, they're trying to keep bonds and debt from defaulting.
That's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to prevent these defaults, and that's what the debt would do, is cause the United States to start defaulting on the money that it owes to China and other countries. So, and that would be a financial catastrophe for the United States. So just in my view, what the Fed is doing here by pumping these billions into the economy is try to prevent that from happening. And now we understand that China has 20,000 tons of gold they've amassed. They've met with Russia. They have come out and announced, Putin just came out and announced that the U.S. dollar, being the world currency, is ending soon. China and Russia have entered into an agreement to no longer recognize the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency. Greg, all of these things put together do not look good for the U.S. economy, and we've all got to acknowledge that. And with the understanding that, as I mentioned earlier, Trump inherited a financial monster that was not his doing when he was sworn into office. It already existed, and it's very serious. I think either now or very soon, the U.S. government will not even be able to afford the interest on the debt, much less paying off the debt itself.
Putin said the dollar would collapse. So yes, the dollar, if it collapses, it can't be the world's reserve currency. Also, a research note. I brought this up in the weekly news wrap up too. And get your comments, and you already give me some about all the gold, China, Russia, whatever. Having wealthy people are being told by Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs. This isn't me, some tinfoil hat. Well, I'm not a tinfoil hat, but this isn't some tinfoil hat person in their basement going buy gold. Yeah, things are bad. This is Goldman
Yeah,
Sachs telling their rich clients, you should buy some gold. And they're doing it.
yeah,
And hedge funds are buying gold. Central
yeah,
banks are going to have a record year of buying gold.
yeah.
Is this all part of that trade that the economy could destabilize? They're trying to fight it off with the repo market. Lots of gold hoarding. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Greg, this is a solid indicator that we're heading for the financial rapids. Goldman Sachs, especially, that is the global bank. Essentially, Goldman Sachs is a global bank. And of course, it's one of the main banks in the United States. And the fact that Sachs and others are building up gold reserves is a clear indication that they expect a financial downturn, to put it mildly, that's coming, especially in relation to the U.S. dollar, the value of the dollar, and its world reserve currency status. That's coming, and this is just a clear indication. And I think a red flag people need to see that these banks, Sachs and others, are preparing for what they're convinced is coming.
Kevin Shipp, your website is fortheloveoffreedom.net. Your book is on the website. You sell it there. It's a fantastic book. I've read it. It's read parts of it. It's got massive information. Shows you're an expert in the deep state and everything about it. I couldn't believe Feinstein. There is no deep state. Hey, Kevin, is there a deep state?
Greg, there's a deep state,
Yeah.
and I prove it in my speeches.
Yeah. Hey, Dianne Feinstein, there really is a deep state.
Yeah.
Hey, there's also Chinese spies working in your
Yeah.
office.
Yeah. Ask your Chinese spy and 10-year office manager if there's a deep state. All you got to do is look right next to you.
So this is on the website for theloveoffreedom.com. Also, listen, I say this all the time because you're a patriot, man.
Thank you.
You took a big hit being a real whistleblower to try to save the lives of your fellow CIA folks around the world because of a flaw in the computer program, basically. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, okay. And they punished you for that,
Yes.
for trying to save the lives of your fellow CIA officers around the world.
Yes.
You lost your pension. So there's
Yep.
a place you go to for theloveoffreedom.net. The links will be there. Just scroll down to the middle of the page. There's all kinds of different ways in there where you can go snail mail. Snail mail works good for you in case you want to have, identity. If people don't want to have their identity really known, put on Patreon or put on PayPal or whatever. You got all that stuff there. Crowdsource, all that stuff there. Also, your Patreon. Talk about your Patreon. That is a growing entity for you, where you lost a lot of income with your pension. You have a assessment every week. You have a paywall where you can get in and people can see your thoughts about certain subjects and about news and things you have. Tell me about that. Your Patreon account.
Yeah, Greg, thank you. It's patreon.com/Kevin_Shipp, SHIPP. And I'm posting exposés on. I have the intelligence assessment every Thursday night, where I get into what the mainstream media won't report in terms of analyzing the government and what's going on. I break down the deep state. I do exposés on current events from the perspective of a former CIA officer. And I have some other things in there, surveillance detection training, how to spot a liar, detection of deception, and other things that I only offer to my sponsors who come in there. And we've got a real awesome growing community of patriots together in on that Patreon channel, and it's I'm really happy about it.
I also wanted to bring up that you're really a patriot, and I want people to support you.
Thank you.
I just want people to really support you. Also, you just do a great job with all that. Your website, which I know I know you're not really to announce this yet. Maybe I'm spilling the beans. I know you're scraping together some money to improve your website, but what's on there now for the loveofreedom.net? And I love this, and it's Shipp's briefs right at the top. And almost every day you can go on for the loveofreedom.net, and this is going to be a feature on your new website too, I'm sure.
Right.
Where you give a little rundown of the news. You gave a little rundown of that Eric Holder thing. I thought, man, this is great, because nobody could get this. You don't get this from anybody that doesn't have your mindset and your training. And you did a breakdown of what was going on, a little breakdown of a news article that came out, and a little analysis of that, which is just like Helen Keller, just like a light bing going on. So people should keep that in mind for the loveofreedom.net. You can roll down to the middle of the page, find different ways you can support Kevin Shipp, including the Patreon channel, which I'll put a separate link for that. Also, the snail mail, PayPal, all that stuff is there. You can find that. Kevin Shipp, thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Greg, it's so good to be with you. Thank you.